Nolan, pronounced Nolan, better known as Omni-Man and also known by his adopted name Nolan Grayson, is the deuteragonist of the Image comic series Invincible and its animated adaptation of the same name. He is the father of Invincible and Omni-Boy and a member of the Viltrumite race, a humanoid species of extraterrestrial origin who possess super strength, super speed, virtual immortality, and flight. As is customary for male Viltrumites, Omni-Man sports a large mustache. He was tasked with conquering planets to spread the Viltrumite Empire, and arrived on Earth to infiltrate their society to weaken a chance for them to defend themselves. Becoming a writer and superhero named Omni-Man, Nolan would have a son named Mark Grayson with a human woman named Debbie, who would become a superhero under the moniker Invincible. Omni-Man would eventually reveal his plans and battled his son after killing the Guardians of the Globe, but would leave the planet due to his love for his son. Nolan would redeem himself and become the Emperor of Viltrum after his true heritage was revealed. He is voiced by J.K. Simmons, who also played Alexander Roche in Homicide, Life on the Street, Vernon Schillinger in Oz, General Wade Eiling in Justice League Unlimited, Skip in Aliens in the Attic, Cave Johnson in the Portal video game series, Terrence Fletcher in Whiplash, Kai the Collector in Kung Fu Panda 3, Captain Matt McKenna in 21 Bridges, Ivo Shander in Ghostbusters, Afterlife, Captain Putty in Chip and Dale, Rescue Rangers and Catherick Thorm in Baldur's Gate 3. Due to the first thousands of years of his life, he had been indoctrinated with the Viltrumite ideology, a group of superpowered aliens whose only goals is to eradicate weaker species. Nolan was a loyal Viltrumite who believed in their cause and wished to be one of their top members who would spread around and conquer planets. While at first Nolan had conquered alongside his fellow clansmen, he later went on solo missions to colonize. He would start by destroying the planet's most prized protector. His upbringing and possible physiology has Nolan a brutal cataclysmic being. He views all life as pointless and pathetic, believing he is a superior race. This also paired with the fact that he lives way longer than anybody else, so getting attached to anybody would be pointless. Thanks to his unparalleled strength and night invincibility, he can brutally kill anybody with absolutely zero effort and risk, regardless of their power, strategy, and/or numbers. This is shown when he destroys an entire race of technologically advanced aliens within mere moments. Most of his kills are done by simply throwing heavy things at someone, flying into them or simply hitting them, causing them to explode. He displays little to no emotion during most fights. Though usually fighting with brute force, Nolan also displays intelligence and some battle tactics. This is shown when he throws Darkwing's dead body at Green Girl, so she will stop using her intangibility to catch her dead friend, giving him the opportunity to strike. He also occasionally uses weapons, seen when he grabs War Woman's battle hammer, or just using corpses. When he is being sent through a portal home by Martian scientists, before he steps in, he throws a meteor at them which hits after he leaves. He is also sufficient in torture methods, even without resorting to brutalization, seen when he drops a criminal from the sky and catching him moments before falling to his death. After coming to Earth, Nolan unconsciously became attached to humanity. With his family, Nolan displays many qualities of a middle-aged suburban man. He gets along with his family very well, regularly training Mark or taking Debbie on dates, sometimes across the world. He also displays a brotherly bond with his best friend and tailor, Art, commonly sharing drinks and talking. Nolan has no qualms over using his powers for everyday tasks, like traveling and floating. He is charismatic but also occasionally displays somewhat poor social skills, such as asking about dinner after his coworkers are brutally murdered by him in secret. He is also rude to a hospital attendant, demanding his clothes from her, due to it being condemning evidence against him. As a superhero, Omni-Man displayed a typical Superman-like personality who always comes to save the day. He doesn't wear a disguise to hide his identity like many superheroes. Due to his unmatched strength, he could wipe out enemies with absolutely zero effort, though seemingly holds back his strength in front of others. This unmatched strength also makes him uncooperative with the other Guardians of the Globe, making him somewhat distant from them. Omni-Man didn't really think of them as friends and only thought of them as co-workers. After his son, Mark awakens his powers, Nolan's Viltrum persona is reawakened, starting with him assassinating the Guardians. He doesn't show his true nature, however, unless he is provoked about it. This is shown when he gets angry at the detective, Darkblood, for trying to investigate the truth about the Guardians' death. He is also very rude to a nurse since she has his bloody shirt. Nolan can be somewhat careless. He is not too careful about hiding his murders of the Guardians, seeing how he leaves condemning evidence in his closet, despite obviously having the ability to hide it anywhere. Nolan was shown to be very highly manipulative, seeing how he was able to fool Earth into thinking he was a savior for over 20 years, though partially because he felt attached to humans deep in his heart. He gives a eulogy for the Guardians of the Globe who he secretly killed. He is even kind to the people who attended their funeral. He is able to protect his identity from his loved one though, with his charismatic and manipulative nature, by tricking his family into thinking the people trying to expose his true identity are the bad guys. Once his true identity is revealed, almost any semblance of humanity he had is temporarily gone, showing his horrifically monstrous side. He becomes completely ruthless, cold, cataclysmic, destroying all in his path, hoping to find Mark immediately. He even calmly threatens Mark's best friend his location away. Once meeting with his son, who doesn't know his true nature yet, he makes him believe they should be fighting the monster trying to kill him and they should kill him together. He can no longer hide his identity, after mutilating the superhero, Immortal. With his identity exposed to his son, he calmly explains his origins to him and tries to indoctrinate his philosophy onto him. When Mark rejects this, he attacks him and murders massive amounts of innocent civilians to prove a point. He seems unsure why Mark wouldn't want to be a loyal Viltrum like him, not even considering they are complete strangers to him and Nolan had kept this hidden from him his whole life. He is willing to horrifically mutilate Mark and make another child, until he remembers a happy memory with him and realizes Mark still loves him. Nolan finally is coped with guilt and leaves Earth in tears. Overall, this fight was more about Nolan trying to convince himself he was a loyal Viltrumite, rather than convincing Mark. In short, Nolan was a conflicted man who developed a love for Earth against his will but wanted to convince himself he's still a loyal Viltrum soldier. After destroying many lives at his new home, Nolan had woken up and started to feel guilt, becoming an actual hero in the process. Nolan was born on the planet Viltrum to Argal and his mother. His heritage was hidden due to his father being assassinated by Thetis. The Viltrumites would create a strong empire under the Grand Regent Thrag as they started to want to conquer planets and spread their influence across the galaxy. Reaching the appropriate age, Nolan decided to help his people in their conquest. Becoming a capable warrior, he would command his own unit. When Viltrum suffered from the Scourge virus, the Empire decided to use their lifespans to infiltrate planets and societies to weaken their defense so that the targets could not counterattack the Viltrumites. Nolan took on the mission to infiltrate the planet Earth and started his mission by befriending Cecil Stedman to learn about human culture. He took on the surname Grayson to appear more human, and Stedman set him up to be Omni-Man, one of Earth's most powerful superheroes. During his mission, Nolan met and fell in love with an Earth woman named Debbie, whom he later married and had their son, Mark. Nolan would continue to fight against supervillains as Omni-Man, and became an ally of the Guardians of the Globe, a superhero team. In addition, Nolan would falsely tell Debbie, Cecil, and the costume maker Art Rosenbaum why he was on Earth. While raising Mark, Nolan told him that he would receive powers like him, but told him false stories of why he was on Earth as well. When Mark gained his powers and became a superhero under the moniker Invincible, Nolan would help his son fight against the Flaxans but was abducted by the creatures. He was stuck in their dimension for 8 months, with the Flaxans neutralizing his powers and keeping him prisoner. Nolan's powers returned, however, and he revolted before escaping the dimension and returning his wife and son. While working on his plans, he had Mark substitute for him to battle Alan the alien and was kept occupied while his son later went to Upstate University. When his son returned home and overslept due to stopping many threats, Nolan put his plans into motion by going to the Guardians of the Globe's headquarters and killing all of them. Afterward, Nolan kept himself out of the spotlight to not become a suspect in Black Samson's investigation and struggled with telling Mark his true origins. When battling the Immortal again, Nolan killed him again in front of his son and revealed his true Viltrumite origins and what his empire tasked him to do. He asked Mark to join him in conquering Earth, but his son refused and the two battled across locations until he was beaten. Though Nolan had Mark at his mercy, Omni-Man realizes to loved his son too much to kill him, instead spared his son and fled the planet, crying while flying into space. Realizing that he loved his son, Nolan decided to conquer another planet to lessen his crime of deserting the Viltrumite Empire and not going through with their plans. Arriving at Thraxa, Nolan learned that the Thraxans had a short lifespan and that the oldest individual would rule the planet. Nolan became their ruler since he had lived for thousands of years, and sent a Thraxan to collect his son from Earth. While living on Thraxa, Nolan mated with a fellow Thraxan, Andressa, and the two had a child named Oliver. The two reunite and reconcile, but Nolan refuses to return to Earth due to his actions and that he must stay on Thraxa. He reveals to Mark that he had a son with a Thraxan and that the child would be killed by the Viltrumites due to having a genetic flaw of having purple skin. Nolan and Mark defend the planet from the Viltrumites, and the former is captured by Lucan and imprisoned alongside Alan the alien. The two become friends and escape from confinement, and the two decide to prepare themselves against the Viltrumites, as the Empire is preparing to invade Earth. Embarking on adventures across the galaxy, they gather weapons and allies, like Battle Beast and Space Racer, which will give them an advantage over the Viltrumites, before returning to Earth to collect Mark and Oliver and reconcile with Debbie. They are briefly waylaid by the Viltrumite champion Conquest, an old enemy of Invincible who is killed in the ensuing battle, but not before Mark is critically injured. Nolan spends the subsequent months bonding with Oliver while Mark heals. In the final battle of the war, Omni-Man, alongside with Invincible, Alan, Oliver, Thetis, Battle Beast and Space Racer managed to win, destroying the Viltrum planet and scattering their enemies, although Thetis is killed while Nolan, Mark and Oliver are badly wounded by the Viltrumite regent Thrag, who secretly relocates the surviving members of his race on Earth, planning to interbreed with humans to covertly rebuild the Empire. Afterwards, Thrag discovers that Nolan is a descendant of the long-dead Emperor of Viltrum Argal, and thus heir to the throne, provoking a fierce battle between them. Although Nolan is overpowered, but the Viltrumites recognize him and rally behind him, overpowering and capturing Thrag. Nolan is subsequently crowned as ruler of the Viltrum Empire and Thrag is exiled. Nolan Grayson managed to overlook the Viltrumites on Earth and saw how the Viltrumites changed for the better and see Earth as their new home. In the final confrontation between the Viltrumites and Thrag's army, Nolan was killed by Thrag, but Mark managed to defeat him once for all. Before succumbing to his wounds, Nolan names Mark as his successor to be the Emperor of Viltrumites. In the future, his grandson Marky, Mark and Anissa's son, visits Nolan's grave and promises to live up to his father's legacy.